Have you ever looked out your window late at night and noticed someone staring back? Imagine seeing the same stranger every night, standing perfectly still, in an apartment everyone says has been empty for years. Would you keep watching, or would you close the curtains? Because tonight's story begins with a simple wave from a window and ends with a nightmare that refuses to stay across the street. This is the apartment across the street. Rain had become part of Ethan's nightly routine. Living on the 9th floor of an aging apartment building, he often spent sleepless nights sitting beside his living room window, sipping coffee while the city disappeared behind curtains of rain. His job as a freelance video editor meant he rarely slept before sunrise. Most nights were ordinary. Cars drifted through puddles. Streetlights buzzed softly. Occasionally, a stray cat wandered through the empty sidewalks below. But directly across the narrow street stood another apartment building. Older, darker, almost forgotten. Most of its windows remained black every night, except one, apartment 9B. The light always turned on at exactly 2:17 a.m., never earlier, never later. At first, Ethan assumed someone worked the night shift. Maybe they came home late, maybe insomnia, maybe nothing unusual at all. Still, something felt wrong. The lights switched on too suddenly, not like someone flipping a switch, more like the room simply appeared, perfectly illuminated in an instant, every single night. One evening, curiosity got the better of him. He pointed his camera with a telephoto lens toward apartment 9B, zoomed in, focused, waited. 2:17 a.m. The light appeared. Then someone walked toward the window. A woman. Long black hair. White nightgown. She stopped inches from the glass. Perfectly still. Then she smiled, slowly, painfully, and raised one hand. She waved, not randomly, not outside, directly at Ethan. He instinctively looked behind himself. No one. When he looked back, she hadn't moved, still smiling, still waving. The next morning, Ethan mentioned it to the building manager. The old man stopped sweeping the hallway. What apartment? 9B. The broom slipped from his hands. That building was condemned 6 years ago. Ethan laughed. No. I saw someone. No. The manager's face had gone pale. You didn't. He refused to say another word. That night, Ethan waited again. Camera recording. Clock ticking. 2:17. The light appeared. The woman stood at the window, but this time, she wasn't waving. She was pointing toward something inside Ethan's apartment. His heart froze. He slowly turned around. Nothing. Just his kitchen, his couch, dark hallway, silence. He looked back. The woman was now frantically shaking her head. Suddenly, his camera autofocus shifted, not toward her, toward the reflection in Ethan's own window. Behind him, someone stood in his apartment, tall, completely black, no face, just standing, watching him. Ethan spun around. Nothing. His apartment was empty. When he faced the window again, the woman had vanished. The light switched off. Exactly 2:18. Unable to sleep, Ethan reviewed the footage, frame by frame. Everything looked normal until he reached the moment the autofocus changed. There it was, the reflection, behind him. Except the reflection wasn't standing still. It was leaning closer, every frame, Closer, 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 until the final frame. Its face completely filled the camera. A face with no eyes, no mouth, only darkness. The recording ended, battery dead. Although moments earlier, the battery had been 93%. The next day, Ethan crossed the street, ignoring the warning signs, ignoring the chained entrance, ignoring common sense. He squeezed through a broken service gate. Dust covered everything. Mailboxes overflowed with unopened letters. Furniture remained where families had abandoned them years ago. Apartment 9B sat at the end of the hallway. Its door hung slightly open. Inside, no electricity, no furniture, no curtains, nothing. Yet, the wallpaper beneath the window was strangely clean, as though someone had stood there every single day. He noticed something scratched into the floorboards. Hundreds of tiny lines, grouped into clusters, like someone counting days, years, decades. At the center, someone had carved 4 words: "Don't look back home." A chill crawled through Ethan's body. Behind him, footsteps, soft, bare feet, walking across old wooden floors. He turned. Nothing. But another message had appeared in fresh dust. "You looked." That night he refused to open his curtains, locked every window, every door, turned on every light. At exactly 2:17, the power went out. Complete darkness. Then, knocking from the window, 9th floor. Outside. Impossible. His trembling hands reached for a flashlight. The beam landed on the glass. The woman stood outside, not on a balcony, not on a fire escape, standing in the rain. Against the window, 9 stories above the ground, still smiling, she slowly lifted one finger, not waving anymore, pointing. Again, behind him. This time Ethan didn't turn around. He remembered the warning. Don't look back home. The knocking became louder. Then it stopped. The silence became unbearable. Finally, a whisper came from directly behind his ear. "You finally listened." The voice wasn't threatening. It sounded relieved. Ethan slowly closed his eyes. Morning sunlight woke him. Everything seemed normal. The power had returned. The curtains remained shut. Had it all been a nightmare? His phone buzzed. One notification. Security camera alert. Motion detected inside apartment. Time, 2:17 a.m. He opened the footage. The camera faced his living room. At exactly 2:17, he watched himself sitting on the couch, completely motionless, facing the hallway. Then another Ethan walked out of the hallway. Identical. Same clothes, same face. It stopped behind the Ethan on the couch, bent down, whispered something. The Ethan on the couch slowly stood, walked toward the front door, opened it, and left. The second Ethan turned toward the camera, smiled, then looked directly into the lens. "I'll take it from here." The recording ended. Police searched the building. Neighbors confirmed Ethan had never left his apartment. No doors opened, no elevator activity, nothing. The footage couldn't be explained. Experts called it corruption, editing errors, digital artifacts. Ethan knew better. Days became weeks. He stopped sleeping, stopped answering friends, stopped editing videos. Every reflective surface seemed wrong. Mirrors delayed his movements. Television screens occasionally showed someone standing behind him. His own shadow sometimes moved before he did. Then one evening, he glanced toward the apartment across the street. The window remained dark. For the first time in weeks, relieved, he smiled. Maybe it was over. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. A familiar voice whispered, "Don't look outside." The voice was his own. He looked anyway. Apartment 9B remained dark, but every other apartment window in the building across the street contained someone, standing perfectly still, watching him. Hundreds of faces. Men, women, children, old people, all smiling, all raising one hand, all waving. Then, every light switched off simultaneously. The city fell silent, except for one final knock from inside Ethan's bedroom. Police eventually entered his apartment after neighbors reported weeks of silence. The television still played static. Coffee sat untouched beside the window. The front door was locked from the inside. There was no sign of Ethan. No struggle. No blood. Nothing. Only one strange detail. His apartment window now reflected another building across the street. One that didn't exist. And every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., people still report seeing a man standing in the window. A tired man, holding a coffee mug, smiling, waiting. If you ever notice someone waving from a dark apartment that should be empty, do yourself one favor. Close the curtains and never, ever wave back.